Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for finally coming on the S2 show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For sure. You're doing some pretty amazing things.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you. Listen, it's an interesting time to travel. We really only did it because we had committed prior to the pandemic, so
Yeah.
I'm glad it's over.
Where'd you go?
Italy.
Oh, that's like so bucket list for me. What part? Where did you go?
So we had a few places that we were supposed to go, but the airlines are doing a lot of cancellations, as I'm sure you know. So we missed the first leg, but we got married in Florence.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, Gorgeous. It was great. It was great. Listen, will I travel again anytime soon? No.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
The world's not ready for us,
That's right. We just have to be patient, but it's coming.
Exactly. We're almost out of the woods.
That's right. That's right. Well, tell me what we want to do today. So just give me an idea of what your show typically flows like and how I can best serve you.
You know what? We're recording right now, and I just like to have a genuine conversation. Like, I know that you have a background in corporate and you left corporate, and a lot of people talk about this right now and how they've, made it happen. A lot is involving like starting their own business or getting involved in real estate. So I guess I really would like to hear how you went from being this corporate executive to being independent and motivating other people. So where were you when you first started? What did you used to do in corporate?
So I had one job in corporate America right out of college, and I was in the recruiting and talent space. So my teams in our organization, we found talent for companies all over, and my focus was in South Florida and in Central Florida. But I was there for 21 years. So wow. I spent a long time with one organization.
That's great. I mean, that's a huge commitment. Not a lot of people do that.
No.
So after so many years though, like what happened? Why did you leave?
Well, I think, and I know in my heart that a lot of people go through this because I speak to a lot of women and men out there, but as we grow older and we go through different life experiences, for me, my values changed, and what was most important to me, raising a mom of two smaller boys at that time and not being home. I was living in a hotel a lot of nights during the month because the commute was so far where I was needed. And I was having those regrets of, my gosh, I may not be here for my kids for the important things because there's something that I'm needed for in the business. And it was that kind of pull of the guilty feeling in a way. You want to be a good mother, but you want to also, my career was important. I love my career, but I experienced a challenging time in my life with the loss of my mother. And that's really what set the mind shift for me that life is really short. And I just watched the end of life with my mom, and I saw that she never asked for anything at that stage in her life. And what was most important to her was just knowing that she was loved and cared for. And it really just sunk in my heart going through that experience, very honestly, Stephanie, is I get one life and I want to focus on what's most important to me. And it was not going to be working in an office 8 to 5, 8 to 7, traveling back and forth where I wasn't going to be there for my family during that important time of my life. And that was a big part of it. And the other part of it was I wanted to grow, and I didn't have any room to grow where I was. And I was hungry to grow, but in a way that I felt was fulfilling for me, not what somebody else said I should be growing in.
Right. And as an executive, we're often in this position where we're leading others. You know, like for me, I know that I have to wear this hat all the time. And I have for a long time, where you are the person that people turn to. So you have to have all the answers. So realistically, your growth stops in the office because you can't learn, right? Because you're not really allowed to ask questions anymore. You're the one with the answer. So how do you solve that for someone who's in that position? How do they keep growing when they have that leadership role? Do they just have to leave?
No, not necessarily. I think they have to do what feels right for them and what speaks to what's right for them in their life and what is most important to them. Yeah. And I'll be very honest, when I was a leader in my early stages of leadership, I did think I had to have all the answers. And as I grew, I realized that I don't have to have all the answers at times, because a good leader is good at showing that human side, that we don't know everything, and it's okay that we don't know. But the true gift of a leader is being willing to be vulnerable and be humble to say, you know, I don't know, Stephanie, I don't know that answer, but I want to find out for you. And let me go see who has that answer. And when a leader is willing to take care of that employee, even if they don't have the answer, and help them go find it, that's servant leadership. You're there to help the other person grow. That's our job. Right. But we grow through sometimes being stretched in our own experiences that we don't have all the answers, and we have to go find them ourselves.
Totally. I think there are too many leaders who get stuck in that position, right? They think, okay, that's it. I'm not allowed to learn anymore. I'm not allowed to forget anything. I'm not allowed to not have an answer. So, and then they kind of lose reality because they are not always right, but it stems then into their personal lives, and they don't ask questions because they think it could make them look bad, and they kind of stunt their own growth.
Oh, it happens all the time. It's chronic in corporate America. Yeah. It's called what's been identified as destination disease. When that leader gets to that top level or that C-suite, they stop growing, they stop learning, asking questions, because they think they've arrived. Yeah. And that's the point, is we never arrive when we're a leader. We are always growing and learning and being challenged. And leadership isn't an event. It's not like, oh, I got there, I got the promotion, it's over. Right. It's a process that it continues and it builds as we get into higher level positions. And that's where a lot of leaders just make mistakes, where they just stop learning and growing because they think that they have arrived at that moment. Right. But the moment never stops.
Agreed. And learning never stops. You want to always be learning.
Yes, absolutely. There's so much to learn.
Right. It keeps us young. So once you left corporate after 21 years with the same company, how did you have the courage to start your own brand empire? Because that's essentially what you have right now. Isn't that accurate? What you do is like your brand empire.
I'm building it. I'm in the midst of putting a brick together every single day to build it. But I do love having my own brand and my own ability to be creative behind what is mine. And it started from nothing. And where I found the courage to do it, it took a lot of time to build it up. And I think a lot of people experience this. There's a lot of people out there right now that reach out to me and they're questioning, ooh, I want to start a business. I see what you've done and I want to do that. And here's a question you have to ask yourself. You may see someone that is successful, that has an empire or a brand, but the question is, are you willing to do what they have done to get there? So it's not a matter of, can you do it? It's, are you willing to do what they have done to get where they are today? And it was scary. I mean, it's no joke. there is no department of finance, IT, marketing, accounting.
You're it.
It's not here. Like, we are it when we
Yeah.
get started. And you want to do so many things, but we don't start with all the resources in the world, but we have to be resourceful. We don't have all the money to do what we want to do. And
Right.
it's scary because you don't know what's on the other side of that decision you make. And so a lot of people are afraid of what that other side looked like. But for me, I didn't want to have any regrets. And you know what? If I went out there and I fell flat on my face, I would be able to live with that because I tried to do something.
Right.
I can always go get another job.
Right.
But I have this chance to create something that's meaningful for the world, that really feels meaningful within to me as well. And I was willing enough to take the risk to just let it all go and say, I'm going to do it.
Right. Right. And so I've looked at some of the stuff that you're offering, and I know, so you're doing courses for like leadership, and really, even though it spells leadership and it screams that, it's also kind of like confidence building. That's what I sensed from it. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that your mission is right now with your company?
Sure. The mission is to ignite that spark within the individual that may have just died out through time. And that will inspire the individual to want to achieve the goals that they have. And sometimes we just lose that spark. So that's really my mission, to ignite, inspire, and achieve, to help leaders become the best version of who they already are. And when it comes to understanding who they are as a leader, I really love helping individuals find their true dominant strengths within them. So if you saw, I'm a Gallup certified Strengths Finder executive coach, and I do a lot of programs for leaders and organizations around looking at who are they truly naturally within, who's their true authentic self.
Right.
And when we understand who we are, we understand the value that we bring. And for me, when I was in that moment of being stuck, where I was like, I don't feel it anymore. I don't feel that fire anymore. And I want to wake up every day and be excited to go to work. And I lost that spark. What really helped me, honestly, was when I worked with a coach on what my strengths were, because it helped me with the connection of, why was I not feeling that spark anymore? And it was because I wasn't using what I was naturally good at. And that's why I became disengaged. So that's what I really love helping organizations understand about their employees. So leaders can understand how to get the best out of their employees and be fully engaged themselves.
Right. And I think, it's such a broad topic, because so many people have absolutely no idea what their skills really are. I think that's a hard thing to even know. I mean, did you go into your corporate role knowing really what your skill sets were?
Oh gosh, back then I was like 22, 23. Right. I just knew, like, we never talked about that in school. Like, It was like, go get a degree in what interests you, and then go try to find a job in it. And there's so many college students that get out of college now that are in all this debt, and they don't like what they're doing. They don't even enjoy it. And I want to be able to help that younger generation as well, because if we can understand where we're going to be most successful, most engaged, and feel most fulfilled within the work that we do. Because here's a tip. I was good at a lot of things in my job. Absolutely. And a lot of us are good at a lot of things in our job. That doesn't mean it fulfills us. And so a true strength is, we're good at it, number one, and it energizes us when we do it. And a lot of people don't know how to connect the two, because they think that they're good at something, that means that it's a strength. But actually, I was doing a lot of things that I was good at, but it was actually supporting my weakness area, honestly, because I was drained when I did it. And that's such a key piece of information for people to understand. When we find work that pulls us to it because we yearn to do more of it, that's tapping into our strengths. We'll do it all day long and we'll be tired, but we can't wait to do it again.
Right. Right. No, I think that's a huge thing though, that we don't talk about. People don't learn it. It's not like a skill that we're given, like help yourself by identifying what's actually draining you. That's not something that we've really talked about.
No, not at all. But a lot of people, they settle because they think that it's just a phase that they're going through and it'll change. But I sat in that phase for a good, probably 3 years. Right. And I was just like, I'm exhausted. I just want to wake up and feel energized on Monday. And it wasn't good for my well-being in the end either.
Right. So what are some of the ways that you help people to really identify that thing that is for them?
Well, what I use is the Clifton Strengths Assessment, and that's like my foundation of my coaching business. So what we do is we look at what are the innate talents that an individual has had since they were very small. Mm-hmm. And then what we'll do is have conversations to really understand what is it in their work that they wish they could do more of, that maybe they're not spending enough time on. And how much time are they spending during their day on areas that are those weakness points, those areas that are draining them? Because we want to be looking for an 80-20 combination. 80% of our time, we want to be focusing in those activities and those strengths that really do energize us, that fulfill us and we're good at. And 20% of that time managing what we're not good at through other people that are complementary partners around us. Or potentially we could also, if we're working alone, understand how our strengths could be leveraged to work through those weakness areas that we have. So I help people understand what truly are their gifts. What are they? How do they show up in them? Because everybody has a different set of strengths in the universe, and they're extremely individualized. So how do they show up in you? How do they help you be successful? And how do they also get in your way so they're unproductive? And we do coaching conversations around those types of situations.
And how long does it typically take for someone to really be like dissected and kind of set on this new road to like understanding themselves better in this way?
Everybody's different. I mean, we all learn at a different pace. I've been studying strengths now for 5 years, but I remember back when I first went through my first coaching session with it, I really connected with the information, but I didn't know what to do with it. And that was the thing. A lot of people, they'll get the report, but they don't know what to do with it or how to put it into action. And so for me, that took a lot of intentionality. You know, I started studying my strengths. I started listening more about the strengths that I had. And then I started working with my mentor on what did that really look like if I were to apply them? And then I put them into practice. But it's a lot of information when you first start looking at it. And so everybody's different, but I spent definitely a lot of intentionality on just starting with one strength. I didn't need to boil the ocean. And I tell people that you don't need to boil the ocean, but let's just start with one. And how can we develop that one further? And what could you apply more of to do more of it?
I love it. I think it's so necessary. I think so many of us are learning now how to show up online and how to have these personal brands, which I know that there are many people who have been doing this a long time, but like myself, even this is all new from the pandemic, you know, so now that we've had this sudden shift and so many people understand that this is a priority, we also are recognizing that personality comes out, that personality is a priority when it comes to our business adventures or whatever we're trying to project onto our followers. So we kind of need to be more familiar with what our real skill sets are. And before we could get away with not knowing.
Yeah. And when we do understand it, we're also more productive.
Absolutely.
Because think about it. It's like swimming upstream, as if I were to give you an analogy around it. Like we can swim and we'll make it through, but when we go with the current of what we do naturally well, we're going to go so much farther faster. And it starts to become a question where I stopped asking, how long is it going to take for me to get better? And it started becoming not how long is it going to take, more of how far can I take it now?
Right.
Because when we find it and we really start that development within that sector of ourselves, that's where our true potential lies. And so many people spend so many hours, and corporate America in general has shaped it that way because we just didn't know what we didn't know. I didn't know this back then. That's how I led my team. We focus on what we need to improve on. But when that shift happens, and there's so many organizations that I've worked with that have started making those shifts, but it takes time, they're noticing that employee engagement is going up and well-being is being catered to as well, because it taps right into one of the 5 pillars of well-being, which is purpose.
Right.
And when we're centered around what we feel is meaningful work to us, that flows into all the other pillars of well-being in our life. And it's the biggest piece of well-being. And if we're not happy in our career because we're not connected with purpose, then you've got a disjointed system around it.
Sure. And I've thought about, I mean, that's a great point that you're making, that corporate is understanding and identifying their need to make an adjustment here. Because if you think about how many people have left corporate, I mean, I'm a millennial, and I know that most of the people I know are no longer in their corporate roles that we all started out in after college. We've, become entrepreneurs. This is the new way of living. So, but we can't live in a world where we're only entrepreneurs. We have these, big 800-pound gorilla companies that really rule the world. So who will take the place, right? So it's nice to know that they're making a shift. Do you feel like across the board, you see more of an interest in caring about the well-being of employees?
I'd say COVID has definitely started to move the needle on that. Because your generation in particular is the largest piece. It's going to be by 2025, the largest piece of the employee population. It'll be millennials by 2025 will be 75% of our workforce. And then right behind that, we've got Gen Z coming in real strong. And your generation, from what I've studied and what I see, is all about, it's not about the money. It's a part of it, but it's about growth and development. Those are a lot of the needs that I talk to my millennial clients about or employees about. And if we're not prepared to let them grow, we have to be prepared to let them go, because they're looking for that opportunity to grow in a way that feels forward to them. And there are companies, I'll tell you, I work with, a few companies that have really started to look at that, the entire population, because we can learn a lot from all the generations, and all the generations all bring value. One is not more important than another. But when we start really stop telling people what to do and start listening to what they need, we learn so much. And the organizations that I've been fortunate enough to work with, we've taken some good quality of time to really analyze and understand what the needs of those employees are within the organization. And when we started tapping into strengths, what we're finding is that employees are happier when they're able to show up and be their authentic self at work. They don't have to pretend to be what they're not. There's a value proposition behind that, as well, as when you are celebrated for the strengths that you bring to an organization, and people recognize the gift that you have and the contribution that it makes to the organization, and it's noticed, instead of trying to pick apart what you can't do, that immediately connects into employee engagement. And I'm seeing some wonderful shifts that have taken time and a lot of coaching work and a lot of conversations with leaders. But when we just can make that shift, I am seeing some organizations that have really started to make great strides.
That's amazing, actually, because you hear so much about like no more corporate, like the corporate exiting the matrix. It's what we're like, most of our stories are really based on once you start doing like speaking. But I think it's really important to know that they're adapting. And I'm curious to know, since you're working with, it's almost like improving company morale to improve the betterment of, you know, these industries and their employees, are they also focusing on improving like technology trends? Because I remember being in corporate, you really weren't, I don't want to say allowed, but you weren't supposed to have like a personal brand. You know, if you were going to go on to LinkedIn per se, it was about your resume and maybe some company ongoings, right? There were lots of rules. Do you have any idea? Are you seeing people being more forward thinking with their employees in kind of showing up in the world socially with a personal brand? Is that like celebrated, or are you not really aware of that?
I think the companies that have more of the younger generations as part of their workforce, I'm seeing more of it. I can't speak to any statistics or anything, but I'm seeing more of it, because when the organization also connects, or the employee of the organization also connects with the purpose of why they're doing what they're doing at the organization. Right. I mean, that helps build the brand of the organization and the culture of what it's like to work there. So it's a brilliant move for organizations.
If they can just get it together like that. That was my biggest thing with the pandemic, was how in the world are these big corporations going to now reach people, because they have such an issue with their marketing in their personal brand way. So that it's always been this like really strict thing, like, oh, you can't post this, you can't say this, you know, there are lots of regulations around it. So I wonder if they'll start to kind of change that, because they're noticing that it helps them when their people are authentic and living online about them.
I think they're going to have to shift. You and I know both that the world is going more digital every day.
Right.
And if companies and product companies especially want to get their message out there, they have to evolve with where the world is going. And your generation started it. And right behind you is Gen Z, which is going to truly change how we do business. I'm reading a great book about this right now. It's called Zeconomy by Jason Dorsey. And everything I'm reading is so true to what I see in my children. You know, they're 13 and 15. And think about it. They've never known a time without having a phone in their hand. Now, millennials have, like, it adapted into their world. But Gen Z, they don't know a time where they didn't have technology. Think about this. I saw my son doing homework, and he's 13 a few weeks ago, and he doesn't need a tutor anymore like I used to. There's an app called Photo Math where you can take a picture of a math problem and it'll help you solve it. He can ask Alexa how to do his homework. So if companies aren't shifting with how that generation is going to buy and connect with the brand, and everything I'm reading and what I'm seeing in my own kids is they want to see companies that are purpose-driven, that are doing good things for the world.
Yeah.
And if we're not moving to that, to connect with them, years from now, you're going to see a big shift in companies not surviving.
Absolutely. Yeah. You hit that on the head. I think that's perfect. And I'm going to read that book because it sounds very good.
It's really good.
We'll have to list it here for everybody who's listening.
Sure.
Tell me about skills. Did you always know, because I know you do a lot of public speaking. Did you always know that you were skilled at that, or did you have to really practice and have a coach to get yourself to where you are now?
Going right back to strengths, it's an innate talent that I had within me since I was very young. Now, did I know I was going to be a public speaker? No, but I can think back to when I was very young, sitting in my bedroom as, a teenage girl or a 10-year-old girl and practicing doing the news on a cassette recorder back then. And just pretending like I was giving the anchor news. And I remember in high school, my favorite class was speech class. I loved being able to create a message, and I always wanted to make it a message that was inspiring for my class. And I spent a lot of time, but for me, that wasn't homework. That felt really fun to me. So there's traces of that talent that started in me very young. And as I grew older, it just grew more intense inside of me to where it kept pulling me. And whatever I ended up doing, it kept taking me closer to more of what I do today. And once I identify that it's just always who I've been and a gift that I've been given, that's when I knew if I could find someone to help me master that craft, that I could just get better and better and better. And so that's where I'm working on myself right now, is just to use that talent I have and develop it as far as I can. So It's always been in my heart, always been something that I've enjoyed, always got an A in speech class. But it's an innate piece of who I am.
So what do you say to your clients who have really not explored their talents, right? They're still trying to figure that out, but they have always wanted to be a speaker, yet maybe they don't have that skill, right? So they'll find out maybe down the road that it's not for them. But what if it's something that, someone just wants to explore? Do you say, go ahead and try everything you can and learn about whether or not it drains you? And what's your opinion to someone learning that world?
I think the world is full of learning opportunities. And if there's something you're interested in doing and you think you might like it, absolutely go all in and try different things to experience them. That's how we learn if we're going to like it or not. It's like, we don't have to keep doing it, but we'll learn that, hey, this is actually something I yearn more to do. I pick it up quickly. I'm good at it. People notice that I'm good at it. And those are some of the clues of natural talent. But if you do it and you just don't feel that desire to do it more and more and more, that's a sign that it's probably not in the area of your weakness. You'll know, it's not a push, it's a pull. It is not something pushing you, it's pulling you more and more, and you want to do more of it. And so if you have something like that in your life, I'm all about trying something to experiment and just get out there and see what it's like for you.
Right. A lot of people are pushing themselves into making video content and they dread it and hate it, but they're trying to improve the skill because they feel like it's a necessity. But there are other ways to do it. Like, I don't actually like to do those infomercial style videos. I prefer to have conversations, right? So you have to kind of adapt.
Absolutely. But see, maybe one of your talents is you like the connection with people and the communication of telling the story. And that's a piece of a talent that you have. And someone else is really good at the piece that you're not good at. That can be complementary to you. So what you do really well, just do more of that. That's where you're going to find your fulfillment.
Yeah. And you also have a very cool show that you do. I'm always seeing your Eventbrite. So what's the story behind that?
Coffee with Kelly. Yeah. So I don't know if they can see my mug, but that's Coffee with Kelly mug. So I started that on March 23rd of 2020, a week after the world shut down. I had one speaking engagement the week before, and that was it. That's the last time I saw it for a long time. And so I thought, I can't just sit in my house for the rest of this year. We don't know what's going to happen. I was terrified. As an entrepreneur, I was like, oh my God, everything I've worked for 2.5 years is gone if I don't do something. And I just wanted to be there to serve a need for my community at a time that we just needed hope. And I am an avid Starbucks fan. If you even follow me, you know that. And so I'm like, you know what? I think it'd be cool. Let me at least try. I don't even know what Zoom is, but I'll figure it out. And I just said, I'll start a virtual coffee shop. It'll be a place people can come and gather and just talk about what we're going through. And I just opened it up, and 6 people, including me, showed up on March 23rd. And I just kept doing it 3 times a week back then. And every time more people would come, and it just started evolving. Word was spreading. And every Monday I would give a leadership lesson to inspire anybody from all over the world, just how they can make it through, or something to help them grow personally and get through tough times. And a year and a half later now, it's blown up, and I'm proud of it, because it's just become a community of leaders everywhere. And these aren't leaders that are running companies. There's people like that in there, but there's also people that are, just graduating from school, trying to find their way, that are leaders in their community. You don't have to have a title to be a leader, and they're just all coming in to be a part of something that is for humanity, to support people. And so Fridays, 8 to 9, we meet. We have our coffee in what we call my hug in a mug. And we just talk about leadership lessons. I bring speakers in, and we just inspire people. And we also help people connect with job opportunities, because a lot of people are looking for an opportunity or want to make a shift in their life. So
That's great.
That's what we're there for. Yeah.
And
I'm just so proud of the community.
Yeah. And I love that it was born out of necessity during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I would imagine you'll continue it going forward. It's not going to end. Okay, good. But and how do people find that?
It just actually got its own web page on my website. So 2 weeks ago, that was my indoctrination of Coffee with Kelly is here to stay. And it's part of my brand at this point, because I think people would be really sad if it wasn't there. But if you go to kellymerblerco.com, you'll see a navigation bar that says Coffee with Kelly. It's got the story behind it. It's got videos of people that are a part of it, and it's a registration link. But we have a culture at Coffee with Kelly, and it's, one of the statements we always say in our motto is, people don't come to Coffee with Kelly. People are Coffee with Kelly. That's what makes it special. Just come as you are, no judgment, and we value everyone.
Love it. Love it. Now I have to ask you one other thing. Did you use Clubhouse at all when the pandemic started?
I did later in the pandemic, I would say, but I was real curious about it too. And so I was invited into a few rooms, and I've done some speaking within Clubhouse as well. I haven't been on it in a while, but absolutely I have participated in it.
Yeah. So there were a lot of people that were speakers at the time that really thought that this would be like the new thing. In my opinion, I don't see it as the same as seeing you in person and being with a speaker. Like I am all for real live in your face events, but I'm just curious, like, did you find any value as a speaker being on Clubhouse?
Absolutely, because you were able to connect with people you'd never heard from, and everybody can teach you something. So I always go in with that open mind that you never know what you're going to learn if you allow yourself to learn. And I picked up tips, absolutely, from people I'd never heard from. So I think it's the mindset you have. You can learn in so many different venues. It's what's the right venue for you. Some people love that they don't have to put their makeup on and they can just sit there on their bed.
Right.
And Clubhouse, I mean, there is a point to that. I get it. But I'm like you, I like to see face to face. I feel that energy from someone. And it's almost like when you do a webinar and you can't see anybody in the audience. That's tough as a speaker. Because I feed off energy and body language. And so for me, Clubhouse was harder for me as well.
Yeah. So are you doing any speaking engagements now? Is it back to reality for you in that arena?
It's making the shift, and it's up and down, because there'll be something booked and then COVID will pull it back. But coming up in just September, I have 2 keynotes coming up, and those are live. I have 3 actual in-company leadership programs that are live, and the rest is virtual. But September is doing a lot of live from what I saw in previous months.
That's
if
great.
That's a sign.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think it's a little funny still, but like maybe by 2022, we'll be on our way to being back to in-person stuff. Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing you at an event, and I'm so excited that you came on, and so glad I finally got to meet you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for all that you're doing as well. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job out there serving your audience. So it's appreciated.
Well, thank you. I can't wait for them to meet you.
I can't either. So cheers. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to end the recording there. Good luck with your son. But really, I would love to stop by one of your coffees.
Absolutely.
I'm going to check it out.
Oh yeah, you can come, just go to my website, you'll see it. And if, just check it out. And if there's something, inspirational message or something that you can share with us, tell me and I'll have you in.
Sure. I would love to check it out first. I want to see what it's about. Cool. Awesome.
Just come in. People just come in and listen. You don't have to worry about talking. There's plenty of people that'll do that, but it's Clubhouse with faces. There you go.
I love that. Do you live in Fort Lauderdale, or where do you live?
Wellington.
Okay. So I'm in Aventura. But like I grew up in Weston, and like we're not too far from each other. Wellington is nice.
Oh. Yeah, I grew up here. I'm a horse girl, so I grew up around horses, and it's good schools here. I mean, that's really the reason.
Yeah, there's a couple of gals who are speakers and authors, and we are trying to get like a bunch of ladies together. Maybe you'll join us. I'll send you the invitation. It was going to be something in like Fort Lauderdale for like a brunch, like a tea kind of a day, like tea with hats. Cool. Yeah. So it would be cute. I would love, you probably know some of them, but I'll send you the invitation when it comes out.
You got, how can I help you? Like what's a good connection for you?
I'm okay. Listen, I'm always looking for people to come on the podcast. I'm a real estate investor. My husband runs a public adjusting firm. So if there's ever anyone with property damage, we've got you covered.
Got it.
I buy multifamily. So I'm an investor there. Like we do a lot. I do a lot. So, but it'd be great to like grow something and connect. Well, you never know.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Stephanie. And when will you tell me when it's coming out so I can look for it?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be mid-September. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about the episode?
Yes.
Yeah. So I should have the episode out. Give me one sec. I believe on September. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
September 8th. Or the 22nd, but I'll aim for the 8th, and I will keep you posted and send you links before it comes out. And you're on LinkedIn, right?
That's my primary place.
Same. Great. So
is that where you are most?
You should get a lot of traction then from that day, because most of my podcast stuff is LinkedIn. I don't really use Instagram. It's more like my personal stuff on Instagram.
Me too.
So yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, and we'll help each other's network. So thank you so much.
Yeah, let's do something again. Do you ever do any lives?
Yeah, absolutely. It all depends on my schedule, like what I have.
Right. I'm going to introduce you to some of the active people from my LinkedIn world, and we'll get you in there.
Okay, that is great. Thank you so much. The more word that gets out there about what I do always helps. So that's what I'm saying. If I can help you, just tell me what I can do.
I'd say as we're in the storm season, property damage, United Claims Specialist, and you're local to me. We do a lot of stuff in Wellington. So love that.
You got it. You got it. It was so nice to meet you.
You too. See you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.